Apple CEO Tim Cook sent a memo to employees Sunday addressing the killing of George Floyd. Protests have erupted in cities across the country after the killing of Floyd, an unarmed black man, at the hands of Minneapolis police. On Friday, Derek Chauvin, a former Minneapolis police officer who was filmed kneeling on Floyd's neck before he died, was taken into custody and charged with murder and manslaughter. Widespread anger over Floyd's killing sparked protests, clashes with police and looting in several cities. In the memo, Cook condemned the killing and called for the creation of a better, more just world for everyone. "We can have no society worth celebrating unless we can guarantee freedom from fear for every person who gives this country their love, labor and life," Cook said. Cook also acknowledged that racial injustice exists in the U.S., including in our criminal justice system and in the disproportionate toll of disease on black and brown communities, as well as from economic inequality and disparities in educational opportunities. The memo comes after Apple closed some of its U.S. stores as protests turned violent over the weekend. Here's the full memo, team. Right now, there is a pain deeply etched in the soul of our nation and in the hearts of millions. To stand together, we must stand up for one another, and recognize the fear, hurt, and outrage rightly provoked by the senseless killing of George Floyd, and a much longer history of painful past is still present today, not only in the form of violence, but in the everyday experience of deeply rooted discrimination. We see it in our criminal justice system, in the disproportionate toll of disease on black and brown communities, in the inequalities in neighborhood services and the educations our children receive. While our laws have changed, the reality is that their protections are still not universally. They've seen progress since the America I grew up in, but it is similarly true that communities of color continue to endure discrimination and trauma. I have heard from so many of you that you feel afraid in your communities, afraid in your daily lives, and, most cruelly of all, afraid in your own skin. We can have no society worth celebrating unless we can guarantee freedom from fear for every person who gives this country their love, labor and Apple. Our mission has and always will be to create technology that empowers people to change the world for the better. We've always drawn strength from our diversity, welcomed people from every walk of life to our stores around the world, and strive to build an Apple that is inclusive of together. We must do more. Today, Apple is making donations to a number of groups, including the Equal Justice Initiative, a nonprofit committed to challenging racial injustice, ending mass incarceration, and protecting the human rights of the most vulnerable people in American society.